5th chapter of the Gospel as recorded by St. Matthew, we can read these words. Quote, "We have heard that it has been said, 'Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy.' But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them that despitefully use you." Unquote. So, how do we go about applying this vision to what appears to be unconditional love? We have been further instructed in Matthew chapter 7, verse 12. "Therefore all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets." In Luke 6:31, "And as ye would that men should do to you, do ye also to them likewise." In the Galatians 5:14, "For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." So we can implement these words. That should solve our problems of how to get along with our enemies, should it not? Our first obstacle, though, is determining who should we regard as an enemy. When I was an infant living on Chardonnay Avenue in Ohio, my mother once left the basement door open when she went downstairs to do our family's laundry. I rode my tricycle up to the top of the stairs to see what she was doing. My sister Debbie, who was about 4 years old at the time, came up behind me to also look, but bumped my tricycle and caused me to fall down the basement steps. She came tumbling down the basement steps behind me. My mother only had time to catch one of us. She caught me. My sister Debbie fell and landed on the concrete floor with only minor physical injuries. But the injury that you could not see was her belief that my mother loved me, but did not love her. This began a childhood relationship between us in which my older sister treated me with jealousy and what sometimes felt to me like hatred. So, could my older sister have been considered my enemy? Yahoo's online dictionary defines the noun as enemy as one who feels hatred toward, intends injury to, or opposes another. A foe. If we look at the biblical definition and the historical context of the word enemy, the Hebrew word most often so translated is oy, and that's spelled O-Y-E-V-H, which means perhaps literally one who hates. Very frequently used in the Psalms 3:7, 6:10, 7:5, and so on, where the cry is often for deliverance from enemies. Another word for enemy found chiefly in the poetical books is zar, T-S-A-R, or distressor. "Deliver me not into the desire of mine enemies, for witnesses of a lie have risen up against me, and he that breathes out violence, unless I have believed to see good in the land of life." Psalm 27:12 and 13. "Strangers have risen up against me, and the violent have sought my soul. They have not set God before them. The Lord is among those who uphold my soul." Psalm 54:3 and 4. In these and many other passages, by enemies and those who rise up against us are identified as evils and falsities which are proceeded from hell. They are called those who rise up against us, because evils and falsities rise up against good and truths, but not the reverse. So if one wishes to avoid these evils and falsities and those perceived from hell, then we must investigate what could cause one person to become actively opposed to someone else. And where could these mortal hostilities have begun? Philosophers and psychologists have long believed that babies are born blank slates, and it is the role of parents in society to teach babies the difference between right and wrong, good and bad, mean and nice. But a growing number of researchers now believe differently. They believe babies are in fact born with an innate sense of morality. Paul Bloom, who was the author of Just Babies, The Origins of Good and Evil, and he's a professor of psychology at Yale, says their studies show that even before babies can speak or walk, they can judge good and bad in the actions of others, because they are born with a rudimentary sense of justice. And while parents and society can help to develop a belief system in babies, they don't create one. A team of researchers at Yale University's Infant Cognition Center, known as the Baby Lab, have showed us just how they have come to that conclusion. Dr. Karen Wynn runs the Baby Lab, and she and her team have been studying the minds and behaviors of babies for decades. About 8 years ago, they began running a series of studies on babies under 24 months old to see how much these babies understand about good and bad behavior. Her first test was the simplest. Show a baby an example of good behavior and then an example of bad behavior, and let the baby decide what she or he prefers. She described experiments where infants were shown two stuffed rabbits, one that acts kindly and one loving, the other one acts cruelly and indifferent to the other. Then she observed which stuffed rabbit the baby chose. Now we're going to try our own version of this experiment today. So I would like Loretta Bacon and Janice Wood to come up. They will be representing two different stuffed rabbits. Okay, we'll begin with Janice. You'll have to guess which stuffed rabbit she is. Okay, next, Loretta is going to show us her behavior. Okay, now, both rabbits are going to come to the front. And we will see whether or not our congregation is able to determine which rabbit they should take home with them. Okay, please applaud if you would like to take this particular rabbit home with you. Okay, please applaud if you would prefer to take this rabbit home with you. Thank you for helping us. Okay. So, which bunny did the babies choose? More than 80% of the babies in the study showed their preference for the good bunny, either by reaching out for the good bunny or staring at it. And with 3-month-olds, that number goes higher, up to 87%. But Bloom says this sense of justice is tragically limited. Although babies are born with an innate sense of morality, they are also born with flaws. To help illustrate this theory, I too have listed perhaps a few of what I feel may be my character flaws. Of course, Road's helped me list a few of those. Bloom also wrote, "We are by nature indifferent, even hostile to strangers. We are prone towards parochialism and bigotry. Some of our instinctive emotional responses, most notably disgust, spur us to do terrible things, including acts of genocide." Bloom also wrote, "We are by nature..." I'm sorry. So it also appears that we have met the enemy, and it is us. Dr. Bloom also proposed that it is the role of parents and society to overcome these limitations and further develop the innate moral beliefs that already exist in those babies' minds. On November 17, 1957, in Montgomery, Alabama, at the Dexter Baptist Church, Dr. Martin Luther King preached on Jesus' commandment to love our enemies, and he suggested that, quote, "While this is a very difficult thing to do, it is both possible and essential for one to live as a good Christian or as a good human being. It is a shining example of the philosophy of nonviolence and Christian pacifism." How did he suggest that we learn to love our enemies? Dr. King suggested that the first step is to look deeply at ourselves and to acknowledge that in each person we dislike, there are still some good qualities that we can admire and love them in spite of it. Within the worst of us, there is some good. His most famous quote from his Loving His Enemies sermon was, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." If we return to my childhood accident with my older sister Debbie, I can assure you that my sister and I have had a lifetime of warm and loving memories to overcome that one tragic psychological event, and we can now laugh about it. Let us then go out to meet new friends every day of our lives, assuming the same good intentions that we see in each other. Perhaps we will feel ourselves turning into something, as Mary Oliver described it, of inexplicable value. By choosing to be a friend and slowly building a community of friend after friend, until we individually and collectively fulfill the Buddha's last hope, that we make ourselves a light. Let it be so.